What's up, CUT Collective? It's Reverend Cherie here. I am so excited to bring you another Sunday Rewind. This service, we're in the middle of the founder celebration at Christ Universal Temple. And so this week we have Reverend Gaylon McDowell in the joint. He's going to share with us about his amazing sermon. So we're going to dive in and have some deep dive into it. I want to say before I bring him in, that these experiences are for you. And so what I want you to do after service, come over to the Facebook group and share what you want to hear more about. If you have a question for the ministers, let me know what it is. I'll make sure I fold it into the rewind. And very, very soon, we're going to move the rewind into a live experience. And so we'll be able to live chat during our experience on Facebook and on YouTube. So right now, I want you to get locked and loaded for a powerful conversation with the Reverend Gaylon McDowell. So I'm going to pull him in to the scene. What's going on, Rev?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Rev Cherie?
I am so wonderful. I'm excited. I'm nervous because I have 7 clips. So we're going to, I brought too much to the game, but what we're going to do is try to move through them because I really want to hear more about what you have to share on these powerful points. So hopefully you can hear it with fresh ears. It's been a couple of days. Yes. So you get to enjoy yourself because you were bringing the hardcore metaphysics as usual.
That's what I do.
That's what you do. That's what you do. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm going to jump right into clip number 1. And so this is from the Sunday service on October 8th. What was the name of your sermon?
Made for the Moment.
Made for the Moment. All right. So here we go.
People sometimes think that a spiritual life means that they will have a problem-free life. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it will never be. You will never stop growing, and that means you need situations to overcome and grow through. That's the game. Don't let anyone convince you that your soul does not require growth. It does. And if your soul requires growth, it needs something to grow through it over. But never forget, you're made for the moment.
All right. So there was some juicy nuggets in that one. But first I want to start off with just a throwback to my first days in New Thought, which is where I really did think that the more you study, the more you work the principles, the more you pray and meditate, then you wouldn't have any problems.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think that's everybody's perspective. Mm-hmm. I think the promise is to help you overcome, manage, triumph over whatever's at your level. Mm-hmm. But as you start to grow, you have new opportunities for your soul to grow. You know, we don't really like to hear those type of conversations. We just want everything to stay the same. Okay, I got everything settled. And now that I got everything settled, nobody move, nobody do anything, no changes. And then people, places, and things around us start to change because it's necessary. You know, Reverend Coleman used to say to us, you remember, grow we must. Mm-hmm. Grow we must. And that's saying to us there's always going to be opportunities in life that will help us develop and evolve. That's the game. You know, without going too deeply into the mysticism of the conversation. But I'm a big believer that God experiences the fullness of God through the experience as us. In other words, so if God is absolute and God is all, how does God experience life?
Through us.
Through the relative experience of creation.
Right.
All right. So this is when sometimes when we say people, you'll see things in the Bible like God is here, omnipresence here, God is coming. It's the relative experience, meaning, yes, omnipresent good is all there is. However, the game is, and I want to, when people say this in spiritual world, sometimes it's misunderstood. I'm gonna use the word and I'll explain it. The illusion is we got to jump through all these hoops to get to a certain place.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is we're already spiritually perfect, whole, and complete. And the game is developing the awareness of that wholeness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is definitely it in a nutshell. And I think that as we're moving through it, so you catch that piece of awareness where you are. Then you go through some life experiences and you have to come to that level of awareness from this new vantage point. Like it's a continuous unfoldment. And so what I remind myself of is that everything in the universe is expanding. Why wouldn't I be?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't I be changing and expanding? And so, it helped to kind of get me to the place that I'm not trying to get to a finish line, like there's just an ever evolving experience that we're having. So you can tell yourself that when you're in the midst of something, that there's something for me to get out of this. It may not be pleasant, it may not be fun, but that it's purposeful. That helps me. That helps me.
And we can either go through a situation or we can grow through it. That's always our choice. We can fight, struggle, and strain, and etc. But if we decide, okay, what are the lessons that I could get from this experience? How can I learn how to be more spiritually connected? What do I need to evolve? What do I need to release? What do I need to forgive? What do I need to accept? It's so many variables that go along with each and every life experience that if we stop long enough to start asking ourselves some deeper questions, more introspective questions, then we can get the blessings out of the situations. But if we
I don't think you can get there without your key point, which is that you're made for the moment, that these things are happening and you can't control them. You can't you're made for this.
You're made for the moment.
Are baked in you. You can absolutely stop, come outside of the space that you're in and begin to look at it from a different point. Like you're made to do that.
Yes, absolutely. You're already equipped to handle the situation. And part of the process is the understanding. So if you go into a situation and, oh my God, everything is falling apart, but I'm made for the moment. Now it's a different conversation.
Yep.
Now you're Jordan with the ball in your hand. At the end of the game, you're down 1, but you're Michael Jordan. You're made for the moment. And we don't view ourselves like that. But that's the truth of who we are spiritually.
Yeah, that's the hack though. Sometimes these, I put this up on purpose because sometimes you need a thought hack. Like you're on a train and it's like, you got to stop that train of thought. How do you get yourself onto another thought train? It's an affirmation. I'm made for this. You know how I know I can handle this? I'm made for this moment. Right.
Yes.
So I want to get into like the question of why is this happening to me? Like that, why is this happening to me? And I feel like this part, we can jump off from here. This next clip I have, this is from the sermon, The Hardcore Metaphysician at It Again.
Your subconscious will constantly draw opportunities and challenges so that you may develop your spiritual gifts in which you feel weak. It goes on to say, if you are impatient and intolerant, you will continually be confronted with challenges asking you to grow in your awareness of strength. If you are willful and manipulating, you will draw opportunities to become willing. If you are angry and unforgiving, you will draw love challenges constantly. Actually, everything that comes in your life is asking you to find perfect balance. This perfect balance brings with it inner peace and the conscious realization of your divinity. So, everything comes to you for your good. I know that's a tough pill to swallow. I know that's a tough pill to swallow. Everything?
I would stop it right there. So so many gut punches in that particular statement, but that your subconscious will constantly draw opportunities for you to grow, for you to develop.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about how that works. How is this happening through us?
Well, if for the soul to have balance, that means that the different faculties and gifts that we have within us need to be in harmony and functioning the way they need to. But we tend to lean on things that are stronger than others. I have really good creativity, imagination, but I like divine order. I have strong faith. I can make stuff happen, but I'm weak in strength. I can be easily tempted away from what I need to do. I can be easily distracted. So the soul seeks to balance those other aspects out. How can it balance them? By drawing to us very unconsciously experiences that make us work on the aspects of our being that are weaker.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when I was reading the quote, if a person, hateful or angry and has a hard time releasing and forgiving, they will draw love challenges constantly. All right. If you don't like to have things in order, situations that will call you to order will be drawn to you constantly.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who leave here with that same experience happening because they refuse to see, okay, this type of situation is showing up over and over again, and I refuse to get the lesson. But Johnny Coleman used to say to us that if you don't get the lesson out of an experience, you'll stay in it until you get it. And she would use the analogy of being an adult in a third grade chair. Remember those chairs with the writing desk? She said it's really uncomfortable for an adult to sit in a third grade chair with a writing desk. And it's really uncomfortable to be in a space that you know you're not supposed to be in because you refuse to learn the lesson.
Mm-hmm. And I think that what happens to some of us is that the discomfort we begin to get used to, the pain, that discomfort, it's just, and so we just say that this is the way it's supposed to feel in this chair.
Yeah.
Right. When I sit down in a chair, it feels cramped, as opposed to I can grow to a space where I am in comfort. I know that there is a better chair. First, you got to know there's a better chair, right?
Yeah.
There's a better chair out there for me. That I mean, just in it's so rich in the sense that we are we're calling experiences forth so that we can grow. And when you get into the roller coaster of life, where it just seems like you're on that record, you can't seem to get out of a groove. Again, back to you're made for this. You're in that groove, but there's a lesson for you just to become aware of. You can catch that lesson and you don't have to keep repeating those same patterns over and over again. So it is to know that, and that's a good question. What's the lesson in here for me?
Yes. Yeah.
What's the lesson in this experience?
Yeah. Because I think what ends up happening when I teach people this particular concept, and this is not something that I created, it's actually in our material that we use in Basic Truth Principles 1, our primary class that's taught at Christ Universal Temple and through all the UFBO churches. But I remember taking that class, Rev Shree, and I had one of the best teachers in the history of UFBL, the Reverend Wilmetta Harrell, who taught almost all of the first generation of CUT people and then UFBL folks. But I swear up and down, I didn't see that when I read it. And she went over it. But my mind couldn't comprehend it when I was 20 years old, reading that for the very first time. And I can remember after I had, taken a few more classes, then I was in the teacher training program, which, back then was 3 nights a week, 60 weeks of class, tests, correspondence, everything. That it was called intensive for a reason. And I remember coming out of it, then it's time for me to be a teacher in the Johnny Coleman Institute. So I'm reviewing my material, and let me just pull out my Basic Truth books. And I read that, and I stopped, and I just put the book down and said, oh my God, it was here all along. I don't think that you can read a thing, but it was like the heavens opened up. It's like, oh my God, this is it. This is why is this happening to me?
Yeah. I'm drawing these experiences.
It's an aspect of what's happening to me.
Right.
Let's not diminish choice.
Right.
It's a whole different conversation. But it deals with the deeper conversation. I must grow. And for me to grow, my soul will seek me to strengthen the things that are not as strong as they need to be for me to function at a higher spiritual level. The idea behind it is to demonstrate the Christ, which means all of these faculties must be developed. They're our own individual apostles. They have to be trained and developed, just like anything else.
Right. Absolutely. So we have a few more clips to get through, but this is one of those I wanted to make sure it was up on the screen that if you are dealing with that cycle of experience, that you can stop that. You can stop that, like the old record, like skipping a track, with the idea that there's an opportunity for me to grow here. What's the lesson? And then I can work on developing the courage and in order to take action, right? Like, because sometimes it's just a scary thing. Doing the same thing may not be comfortable, but it's familiar.
Right.
And so you can develop the courage to take that step in a different direction, to start thinking in a different direction. I want to go to this other one because in order to think in a new direction, I feel like these two questions that you pose are, again, gut punches, but important for your soul's growth. So I'm going to take us back into the lesson. I may have to scrub a little bit, so you guys be patient with me for a second.
Do you really know who you are? Can you accept the idea that you are an individualized expression of the one presence and one power that we call God? Can you accept that you are made for the moment and that you have the capacity to overcome life challenges? How big is your God? Mm-hmm. She would say, do you have a big God? Do you have a big God that can do big things? Do you have a God that can heal your body? Do you have a God that can guide you into success? Do you have a God that can supply you with more than enough money? Do you have a God that can transform relationships and marriages? Do you have a God that can create new businesses and job opportunities? Do you have a God that can attract to you the right mate? How big is your God?
All right. So, okay. So I'm going to start with the first question because I think that that's important. And that first question you posed was, do you know who you are?
Right.
Do you know who you are? And this one, when I talk about just getting out of that cycle, trying to get the lessons so you can stop repeating the same experiences, a key part of that is knowing who you are. Talk to me a little bit about our self-identity, how we identify ourselves and how we should be identifying ourselves.
Well, in the New Thought movement, and we would say New Thought Christian movement, but in our brand of spirituality, we start with what's right about an individual. You've heard me, my pet statement is there's something radically right about you. And what's radically right about you is that you are made, all of us are made in the image and likeness of God. I use, scripture to say, for instance, Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. Now the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. And then if we go to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, it reads, and I'm not going to read all of that or quote all of it, but it basically says that so God created humankind in his image and likeness, male and female created he them. And then Jesus says in John chapter 4, verse 24 to the Samaritan woman at the well that God is spirit. So if we're made in the image and likeness of God and God knew us before we were even formed in our mother's womb, that means that if God is spirit and I'm the image and likeness of God and you're the image and likeness of God and we're the image and likeness of God, that means that we're spirit. Our true authentic self is beyond what we can detect with our five senses. Our authentic true self is already spiritually perfect, whole, and complete. So my self-identity is in God, not in the outer appearances, what I have or don't have, name recognition, family status, what side of the track, whether, as far as financially, I was born to. We have all of these all of these ways in which we give meaning to things that really don't matter to our own spiritual nature and identity. It doesn't make a difference what you've been through. Your spiritual identity stays intact. It's still whole. So what we're trying to do with this, and what I was trying to do with this particular statement, there's something radically right about you, is to remind people that there's an inner wholeness, there's an inner power, that there's an inner grace, that there's an inner authority within you, that if you learn how to tap into, you don't have to worry about what the outer stuff says. Just get in alignment with the truth of who you are in God and who God is in you. Then you'll know you're made for the moment, because if God is in you, how could you not be made for the moment? Right. If God is in you, how could there not be something radically right about you? If God is in you, how could you not be empowered? If the presence and power of God is literally in you as your true, authentic spiritual self. I'm not talking about human personality. I'm not talking about your physical characteristics or your race or your gender or any other human marker. I'm saying, and we're saying, that there is a presence and power within you. There's a spark of divinity. And when you learn how to tap into it at whatever level it is, it can help you transcend and transform your current environment, your current situation. You don't have to stay where you are. Even in the hospital bed, there's an aspect of you that's whole. Even when you don't have any money in your bank account or your wallet, there's a part of you that is always one with the source of all good. Even when you don't think you have a friend in the world, God said, I'll never leave you and forsake you. That presence is still with you. And that is the understanding that helps drive self-image and self-identity. So you don't attach it to something that's fleeting, which is what many people do in the world, because the world has to convince you that something is wrong with you so they can sell you something, including religion at times. They got to tell you you're broken, and then they have the only remedy. New Thought says there's something radically right about you, and we're going to help you not only discover it, but we're going to teach you how to express it.
That was just power and fire. So what's key here, right? There are two things. I say two things, that the most important things that we're dealing with at any given time is our concept of God and who we believe we are. So who is God and who are you are essentially the things that we're grappling with. And you have to take that into your circumstances.
Right.
And the second question is essentially that second. So first is, do you know who you are? And Rev has given us that there's something radically right about you, that there is always the allness of God available to you as you, right? We just got to recognize, we got to wake up to it. So that's that part. So when you're having a lot of challenges, it's like you're just asleep to that reality of who you are.
That's
and
right.
We just want to wake up to it so that we can express. But you can know who you are. You can believe yourself. You can work with, I don't know who I am, and I'm trying to discover who I am. But who you believe God is, and then that relationship is just everything. Yes. And so that question, I'm so grateful that you brought that question back up into the conversation, which is, how big is your God? I needed that word right now, because as challenges come up, it's like I feel myself thinking about, I can handle that. But the power presence of God that is active in me is way bigger than this situation and circumstance. How big is your God? Talk to me about the first, because you sat at the foot of Reverend Coleman. So I want you to talk to me just a little bit, bring her into the fold a little bit about how big is your God and how she proved that. And then just talk to us some more about that. How do you get to that space where you can expand how big your God is?
Well, how big is your God is one of her pet statements. Matter of fact, one of the her ministers, the Reverend Allison Harrell, who was Reverend Wametta Harrell's husband, he wrote a little booklet on it that we used to sell quite often. If you have copies, don't give it to anyone. It was her statement to challenge people to think bigger. It was her way of saying, all right, if you have a big God, you should be up to big things. You shouldn't be thinking about a little anything. She said, you don't need a big God to go to the grocery store buy some item you can pull out money out your wallet to get. You have a big God, so you can dream big. She was big on teaching people how to accomplish her dreams. That was one of her main selling points. You go and sit under her feet and listen to what she teaches. She's going to teach you how to live your dreams. And she had to understand this from, which I talked about in the sermon early on, 1952, given 6 months to live by her doctor, the prognosis, incurable disease, and going and, finding unity, going there and getting the spiritual healing, starting CUT, building the first, at the time before we became Universal Foundation for Better Living, she actually built the first unity church from the ground up in Chicago, the third largest city in the world. And at the time it was the second largest city, and not the world, in the nation, excuse me. And then building the current building that I'm sitting in now, which when it was built was the largest building church building in Chicago, House of Worship. Now, how do you do that? You do that because you think big enough. And when you think big, what it does, it gives God the ability to fill it up. It's sort of like what Reverend Ike used to say: if you go to the ocean with a thimble, you'll get a thimble full of water. If you go with a cup, you get a cup full of water. If you go with a bucket, you get a bucket full of water. But if you go with a pipeline, the ocean will still fulfill it.
Let me stop you right there, because you're talking about how big is your God is how big is your capacity. Right? How big is your capacity? Right. And dreaming big is about expanding your capacity for whatever the good is that you want to hear.
Right. So it was her way of challenging people to expand their capacity. Yes. How much of this good can you accept?
Yeah.
Can you accept it? Yeah. Can you accept a God, like Psalm 23 says, my cup runneth over? Can you accept a cup runneth over God? Some people can't even accept a cup halfway full God.
No, exactly. And think about how you can reject that sometimes when good things are happening, and that fear will come up that like the other shoe has to fall.
Yeah.
Right? It's like something's gotta give here because it's been so good.
Yeah.
Right. Your cup is running over and you are rejecting the overflow.
Yes. So it was a great way she used to challenge people's capacity, because the bigger you can think, the more you can have. It's like Napoleon Hill, who studied New Thought. He wrote in Think and Grow Rich, a very famous quote: what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Why conceive first? Because if you can't see it, it doesn't make a difference what you believe. Like, you have to be able to see it. Can you see the possibility? Conceiving is entertaining the possibility of the bigness. Can I believe it? But if I can't even entertain it, then how can I ever get to the space of demonstrating it? That's the difference. There is magic in thinking big. And I don't mean magic from Sabrina the Teenage Witch magic. There's magic from the standpoint of when you expand your mind, you expand your life. When you change your thinking, you change your life. The bigger you can think, the more God can do. Let me say that again. The bigger you can think, the more God can do in your individual life. God is only limited by your thinking, never by what God can do, because with God, all things are possible. So do you think you can get healed regardless of the prognosis and diagnosis? Do you think that you can come out of that bankruptcy or that foreclosure or that divorce or that job loss or that business failure? Do you think you can come back? How big is your God?
How big is your God? Yes. I mean, that'll preach every day, right? Well, that'll sing every day.
I have a sneaky suspicion I might hear you preach that one day. So,
listen, I'm up this Sunday. I'm up this Sunday at church. You never know. It is because here's the thing, that we're all these vessels for God to express through. And sometimes we'll see someone else having an experience, and it's like, well, I'm as talented as they are. You know what I mean? Why am I not able to produce that kind of life? It's like, what is your capacity? How big are you the thimble? Maybe what you need to work on, and you're so focused on what they're doing, but you need to work on moving from the thimble to the cup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Funny. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I was texting Reverend Norton. I won't say what we were watching recently. We were both online watching something. I'll just put it that way. Someone teach. And we're texting back and forth like, man, this ain't it. But the person had a lot of people following them. And that's gotta be the glory.
Yeah.
And I was saying, man, we could do this much better. And we could. And that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And it's irrelevant to that person drew that amount of people by right of consciousness. Let me expand my consciousness to where I can draw that many people and then have something else that I'm selling that they'll go and pay for to get more of what I have to give. Now, if people are doing that with a small portion of my ability, then I don't have any excuses. So the next day, he and I were on the phone like, man, we need to put something together to get this paper because because we saw it in real time. Like, okay.
But it's like there's a belief there, or whether it's been acknowledged or not, that we'll talk about Reverend Dell used to often call us the biggest secret in LA.
Yeah.
Right. And that people don't get this message. It's like it's not. I mean, times have changed. You hear stuff like what we're saying in a lot of different places, but on some level, there's this idea that people won't be able to handle it. It's so radical. It's so, and that is not the truth, that we are all available to express more God, more God, more God. Right. And so for somebody to help you, to give you the information, to give you the way to think so that you can expand, everybody has space for that.
Yeah.
That's everybody has room for that.
Let's just look at it. How many people have Tony Robbins taught in over the last 30 plus years? Millions.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony Robbins, I was listening to a tape and he said, when I found my first self-help bookstore, and he talked about the books he first read. The very first book, and I don't want to mispronounce it or the wrong author. I'm pretty sure in my brain which one it is, but I'm gonna let that be. It was a New Thought book. Okay, he was learning. Now he added other stuff to it, neuro-linguistic stuff and self-help and human potential, but he started with New Thought books. All right. Napoleon Hill, I just mentioned, Think and Grow Rich, all over the world in 50 languages. If you read the book Law of Success, his original book, he tells you he studied New Thought, was part of his putting his stuff together. Norman Vincent Peale, the Power of Positive Thinking guy, was studying New Thought material, Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, and other material. Word of Faith preachers that we see who teach only a portion of our message. The Joel Osteens, the T.D. Jakes, the Creflo Dollars, and other people like that, who had only taken a portion of it and portion of the prosperity and whatever. It's well known that the founder of their movement studied metaphysics in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and then passed it down within a fundamentalist Pentecostal context. Yeah. The material, people want to find out ways in which they can make life easier and better for themselves. We tell people we have the whole message. We have the whole message of these are the principles you can use to live a better life.
Yeah.
And if all of these people can teach it all around the world, Mark Victor Hansen, I'm familiar, he came here to speak. He's the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. He was a member of Reverend Ike's church. A lot of people don't know that. He just wrote a book with Reverend Ike's son, reached out to me on Instagram. Reverend Ike, he and Mark Victor Hansen wrote a book about his father, biography. It's the material is out there. People want it.
Yeah.
People want the material. I don't care who it is. Les Brown was a CUT UFBL minister, biggest motivational speaker on the planet.
Yep.
The material is out. Now, they might not always use religious context.
And they don't have to.
And they don't have to.
You don't have to.
Here's the thing. there's no such thing as undemonstrated understanding. That's what Emmett Fox wrote. What you can understand, you can demonstrate. So if you don't have to grab all the stuff, but can I get a handle on the bigger you can think, the more God can do? That doesn't matter if you're New Thought, if you're Baptist, if you're Muslim, if you're Hindu,
right,
you're Buddhist, agnostic, or atheist.
yeah,
The bigger you can think, the creative forces, the divine law, this infinite grace, this probability or quantum, this whatever the terminology a person wants to use, because you know people use all type of stuff.
they got a lot. We got lots of names.
You got a lot of names.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our teachers, one of my spiritual mothers, the Reverend Evelyn Boyd, used to say, you can call it peanut butter. It doesn't matter. When the bigger you can think, the more God or whatever you call it can do. If you can get that one thing, you can radically change your life.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for sure. And I think that's some students, when they overstudy, they never, like you said, they never get a grasp on anything. They're just out there swimming in a sea, but they don't have a grasp of any of the concepts. But I want to wrap us out because we're way past our time. But I got one.
So I don't know how we,
No, I'm skipping. I'm skipping ahead to the last clip. We're going to talk about, because I want to leave them with the idea of what potentially could be in the way, right? And so you talk a little bit about the drama that we create and why. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective on it. I want to share that. So hopefully I jump right to it. Let's see what happens.
Path to transformation.
I don't think that's it.
What's in the way is the way.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna back that up a little bit. I want to get you.
Tom Johnson wrote in his book, You're Always Your Own Experience. Each of us interpret our own individual world through our own consciousness. We cannot see the beauty and magnificence that is everywhere present unless we're seeing through a consciousness of love, of the total self. We often ask ourselves, why did this happen to me? It happened because your self is always directing mind to create the experience of yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there, and I want to scrub forward a little bit. So keep that on. Your own experience is one thing.
Gotcha.
All right, and then I want to jump to this next clip.
You are a mental field that is always radiating consciousness and attracting experiences. Just
okay, I don't even. We can't go there.
I packed the sermon so thick. I understand. That's what the hardcore metaphysician does.
I know. You really did bring it this week. I was like, okay, here we go. All right, this is the one I think I'm trying to get to.
When you're not on purpose, you're not on your mission, which will give you natural excitement, you find drama to give you excitement. Don't miss that. When you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you will have natural excitement because God will give you fresh opportunities to grow in a healthy way.
Okay. So I pulled that clip in there. There were two things. So one, to talk about your own experience, coupled with that, the idea that you are producing drama, that if you're producing drama and you got a drama-filled life, it's a clue that maybe you're not on mission.
Yes. Yes.
It's a clue that maybe you're not on mission.
Well, I was just simply trying to say, and what's funny is that I literally said in the sermon, well, since I'm here, let me run with this because it wasn't on the paper. But what I was trying to get across was, I believe that everyone has gifts, talents, abilities, purpose, and a dream in their hearts. Mm-hmm. And when we're on mission, when we're on purpose, the evolution of that purpose, of that mission, of that dream will bring its own experiences that will create what I consider healthy excitement. It's just seeking to produce and give it birth to something, to grow something, to get something to where it needs to be. But sometimes when we're off mission, now we have to create drama to create the excitement for the soul. Some people are just, their lives are so boring because they're stuck on the treadmill of get up, do whatever, come back home, do it again. And there's no excitement, there's no purpose, there's no energy, there's no fire to their lives. let me use a different word because I think this is the word that people will understand. Passion. Where's your passion for success? Where are you putting passion? Are you invoking passion to do something? Now, if you don't, you got to be passionate about something. So now you either got to be involved in somebody else's life, you chasing them around, some celebrity, or making them your world, or making some other individual your world, putting yourself in drama-filled situations so you can get the temporary high, but you're wrecking your life. Some people are chasing the argument. We all know people who love a good fight, love a good argument, love good drama, love good gossip, love to be in the middle of mess. Why? Because they're off mission. Because if you are really involved in unfolding what God has placed in you, you don't have time for that silliness.
Nope.
So that's a
It's
clue.
a true clue. It's a true clue.
That why am I so involved, so passionate about drama and creating trauma for myself? That's why I said, chasing around behind somebody you ain't got no business chasing around, being with people you ain't got no business being with, being where you're not supposed to be. All of those things are a way to generate excitement in an unhealthy way.
Right.
Because you got to have something to talk about.
That drama, that drama life, I know it's like I need something going on. If nothing's going on in my life, again, two clues, right? So if there is no energy, there is no passion, then I know that I need to open myself up for my purpose, right? And that if I'm feeling unfulfilled, I don't need to go out and create drama in order to have something to do, in order to have some energy flowing in my life. And we can be addicted to that.
Yes.
Whereas really that underneath that addiction is really the call for you to express more God, that's where your zeal will come from. That's where the enthusiasm and that spice in life comes from. And so I like to leave on real sweet notes. So especially when you start dealing with the hardcore metaphysician. One of my first teachers, the Reverend Dolores McMillan, who was out of Chicago. She was I'm based in LA. I don't know if you all know that. She was my first teacher, and she taught at Up Church in LA for many years. But she would, after class, give out a piece of candy because she said the truth can be bitter, right? So I wanted to leave y'all with a little sweet that you are really truly meant for more than what you're experiencing. And I want you to use these lessons to help you unlock, to help you break through those pieces of resistance that are keeping you from your highest good. I am so, so grateful to Reverend Gaylon McDowell for giving time today. I know he's had a busy day, and I was able to grab hold of him for a little bit so that we can explore the service a little bit more, explore that lesson a little bit more. We'll be doing these rewinds regularly, okay? So you all know, pray for your girl, because I've been working with some technical issues. And so I got Reverend Wells on lock. We're going to talk about the sermon he did the week prior. We're going to do some special stuff coming up because we had some glitches and we didn't get to record. But we're here for you. I'm here for your questions. I'm here for your soul's growth. I'm so grateful to be a part of Team CUT. And so let's keep building the collective. I want you to do one thing for me as we wrap out here. I want you to make a promise that you will share this with at least 5 people. Share this message. There's something here that your friend, that somebody that they need to hear this. Go ahead and share that with them. If you haven't already, join the collective's private Facebook page. I'll make sure that link is here for you to be able to click on and use what you have heard. Take one thing and put it into play. Because he called it a game. This is the game we're playing. I want you to win. I want you to win at the life you're living. So, Rev, you got anything you want to say before we close?
I'll just say, first of all, happy anniversary to Christ Universal Temple. 67 years of teaching people how to live a better life is a definite accomplishment. I also want to just say, stick with us. People who stick with us get better. I mean, there's no other way for me to say that. So if it's the Sunday sermons, if it's the collective, if it's classes in the Johnny Coleman Institute, if it's seminars or the local or online, the different offerings we have, make sure that you stay as plugged in as possible. And remember, this is a practical Christianity. This is a practical spirituality. So hearing it is one level. Figuring out, okay, how can I apply this to my own individual experience is up to you. All right. So You don't have to take 12 things, 1 or 2. Don't try to do more than that. When you try to change 12 things in your life, nothing gets changed.
Nothing changes. Yeah.
All right. All right. If you're going to go to the gym, 3 days, 4 days a week, okay, make that. But when you try to go to the gym and then you got these 5 other things you're going to put on top of that, you tend to stop all of it. So just master one level. I'm going to do this gym thing for 3 months, and then I'll add eating collard greens every week. I don't know, whatever that might be. And with this, if you can only get the bigger I think, the more God can do, work with that. The bigger I think, the more God can do, because I'm made for the moment. That's what I want you to leave here with. You are made for the moment. If the situation is in front of you, you can handle it because you were made for the moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week with another Sunday Sermon Rewind. Bless you real good today.